Greetings, NFL fans. Today is Tuesday, November 11th. This is the Shutdown Corner podcast. I am Kevin Kaduk, here with Frank Schwab and Jay Busbee. First off, a very happy Veterans Day to all those who have served out there. The three of us, thank you. Without you, we would not be able to come on here and talk football twice per week, and that does not go lost on us.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they necessarily want to take credit for that, but we do appreciate everything that veterans have done for us.
There's a lot of unintended consequences of your service, people. So
part of it is this podcast.
Anyhow, it's a good day. I think it's always a good day. You get on Facebook and people are posting pictures of their grandfathers and fathers and uncles and even themselves, and it's just a cool day to just to see. So I've got a pretty cool picture of my grandfather in an army base in World War II, and it's kind of one of the cooler things because he kind of looks like me.
One of the good consequences of the last few years has been that whenever I'm flying and I see someone in military attire, it seems like there's a huge uptick in respect from where it used to be. It's something we haven't seen in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I was at Midway for one of those honor flights when they came in, everyone cheering and clapping, everything. Pretty cool to see. So yeah. So my grandfather is actually a Korean War veteran, and his birthday is actually today, which makes it doubly cool. So happy birthday, Grandpa.
Does he listen?
He does not.
No.
Totally lost.
Yeah. So I don't think he knows what a podcast is or how to even get one, but I'll tell him I sent him a shout out when I call him later today. Anyhow, we're coming off a kind of a crazy weekend, and we're headed into a crazy weekend where a lot of stuff is going to be shook out. I don't think we need to talk about the Bears too much. People have heard me complain about them and cry about them, and go back and check my Twitter feed on Sunday night. I was in a dark place. Very dark place. But what's crazy about this week, and I like to look towards the future, I like to say, you know what, the Bears, it's not their year. Let's focus on the teams who it might be their year. We're headed into a weekend where the Cardinals play the Lions in Arizona, and the Eagles head up to the Packers. Seahawks go to the Chiefs, and then 49ers are at the New York Giants. Okay, so those first two games are obviously the marquee games of the weekend, along with Colts, Patriots, but we'll talk about that on Friday. Frank, before we hopped on, you asked who is the king of the NFC right now, headed into Week 11. And I don't know that we'll necessarily be able to answer that right now, especially we've got these two games that are going to go a long way to deciding that. But let's just talk about it anyway. If you had to tab one person right now to be the NFC's one team to be the NFC's representative come Super Bowl Sunday, who would it be?
You know, the funny thing is, I think most people after Sunday night would pick the Packers, and they're not even first place in their division. No. I mean, that's how crazy the NFC is right now. If I did, you know, we all do radio stuff. Pretty much every radio interview I did the past few days, I gave my bold prediction, which I think Mark Sanchez starts a Super Bowl. I think February 1st, Mark Sanchez is going to be one of the two quarterbacks starting a Super Bowl. I believe it. And then last night, I was kind of like, I know this is kind of dumb because it's so bold, but then I watched last night and I was like, wow, maybe I was right.
So you're
like, they looked great last night.
Sanchez is going to hold on to the job even after Foles is back?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, Foles hadn't played well. See, here's the thing about the Eagles, and I think we've talked about this here. I've talked about it in many places. Eagles special teams, best in the league, by far, really. The Eagles defense has been top 10 all year. It's the offense that's been struggling because Foles hadn't been very good, and the offensive line wasn't good, and McCoy hadn't gotten on track. A bunch of things. But one reason is Foles hadn't been good. He hadn't made good decisions. He had turned the ball over a lot. He just looked different than last year. Sanchez, every time he has played for the Philadelphia Eagles, even including preseason, which I know means little, but whatever, he's looked great. He looks like he just belongs in this offense. We have to remember, he's a talented guy. He's a top 5 pick at one point. He's won playoff games. So I just think that it clicks. I think that Mark Sanchez is basically 2013 Nick Foles. I think he's going to get on a roll. The Eagles are going to get on a roll, and I think they're going to I really do think that that's your Super Bowl team in the NFC.
Well, more importantly, there's not a real impetus for the Eagles to go back to Nick Foles. It's not like, okay, they've cast a lot of their franchise's fortunes on him. He's not like he's sitting there with a $120 million contract. It's not that big of a deal. And actually, you could probably make the argument that it's probably good that Nick Foles doesn't achieve any more this year because, I mean, he's up for a contract. Is it after next season or is it this offseason?
I'd have to look it up. I don't remember.
I mean, he's still in his entry. He's still in his entry. His rookie year contract. So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, why have Nick Foles come back? Now, I guess you could make the argument that maybe Mark Sanchez is going to get a big contract if he does fulfill Frank Schwab's prophecy and reach the Super Bowl with the Eagles. But yeah, there's not a lot saying, okay, Nick Foles has to get back in there. I mean,
I think if Sanchez plays like he did, taking over for Foles in the Houston game, he played just fine, and he plays like he did last night, yeah, there's no reason to make a change. I mean, we've all seen Chip Kelly. He's going to go with this guy. He's going to go with the guy who gives him best chance to win. It's funny that, in this Senate, we started off talking about the Bears, and I hate to bring this up because I bring it up all the time, but you look at it, and teams like the Bears, they just are so stuck with the fear of at quarterback that they have to pay Jay Cutler $126 million. I think the one team in the NFL that's kind of like a college team almost in that we're going to plug and play somebody at quarterback. That we ask our quarterback to do a lot, but there's a lot of guys who can fit this system, is the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, look at it. They've been through 3 quarterbacks already, basically, since the start of the Chip Kelly era, and they've had fantastic success. I mean, they're playing just fine. Why would you give $100 million to a Nick Foles or a Mark Sanchez? Just draft somebody next year to plug them in, or plug some veteran in who needs a second shot that's been cast aside like Mark Sanchez. It's almost like the Eagles are just totally different than the rest of the NFL, and that's why I enjoy them so much.
Couldn't you make the argument, though, that the Cardinals are in some cases the same sort of team? Because
I was actually just going to say that, yeah.
Has got this system that he had that great interview with the MMQB last week where he talked about how that all of their offensive plays, there's always an out route, somebody that's going for the touchdown, going for the big gain, and quarterbacks love it. Younger quarterbacks adapt to it well. Veteran quarterbacks are thinking, are you crazy? This is not what we do. But it's the same kind of unconventional, non-conservative offense.
Yes and no. I think this is the difference. And it's that Drew Stanton isn't Mark Sanchez. Drew Stanton's 30 years old. He's been in the league. I think this is his 9th year. Never been a starter. More interceptions and touchdowns in his career. Even this year, he's completing 49% of his passes. He's not. I mean, the Cardinals have played just fine with him when he's gone in, but I don't think over the course of the second half of the season he can keep that up. I just don't. If he does, great. If he's Jeff Hostetler in 1990, great. Good for you, Drew. It'd be an awesome story. It'd be fun. I just don't see it. I just don't think he's that guy. I think that not enough is, and I'm a guy who hasn't been a big Carson Palmer fan over the years, so it's weird for me to say this, but I don't think enough is being made of the Carson Palmer injury. I mean, Tony Romo went down, and we spent, it was like live coverage 24/7. I thought ESPN was going to start a separate network just to discuss the updates. And then Carson Palmer gets hurt, and everybody's like, oh, well, Bruce Arians said they could win the Super Bowl anyway. It's fine. Well, no, I don't really think that's true. I don't. I like Bruce Arians. I like his offense. I like him as a coach. I like his confidence. I don't think Drew Stanton's going to lead them anywhere, and I don't even know if they can hold off Seattle, to be honest with you.
So you dropped the Cardinals, I think, from 3rd in your power rankings to 6th this morning.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll hear a lot from Cardinals fans? Do Cardinals fans get angry? Are they out there?
Oh yeah. They got angry. They got angry last week when I had them only 3rd, and I was like, "Well, I don't pick you to beat Denver or New England, so okay. Well, that's the way it goes." It was tough. I did it. I was, I moved. I had to move them down because basically the power rankings are what are you right now? And right now they're the Arizona Cardinals with Drew Stanton. You just lost your starting quarterback. And I moved them to, Green Bay, of course. Indy, yep, I think Indy would beat them. I got to Dallas, and I was like, I just don't know. We just saw Arizona beat Dallas, but that was with Brandon Weed, and that was the tough call. But they're in that range of they're a good team, but I just don't see them as a Super Bowl team anymore.
So Jay,
I think Seattle by the end of and Seattle's the one team that I think we're all just kind of waiting. I think we talk about who's the king of the NFC. And we could talk about the Eagles or the Packers, even the Lions. Who knows? I mean, maybe Jim Caldwell's the right guy for them. the one team is Seattle. I mean, we saw in the fourth quarter, okay, here's Seattle. This is what they do. All right. And I think we're all just kind of waiting for Seattle to reel off 6 or 7 straight wins.
Yeah, I think it obviously could happen. Jay, Frank casts his lot with Philadelphia. Are you willing to cast your lot with someone else? Do you feel strongly about another team?
Yeah, I think that the Packers are the team based on what I saw. Not to give any more credit to the Bears defense than they already received, but the Packers had everything working right. And obviously there's a question of whether the Bears laid down to some extent. But Aaron Rodgers, as we saw last year, the guy absolutely takes over games. He as long as he's healthy, as long as he's got what appears to be a strong and reliable receiving core, as long as he's got Eddie Lacy able to do what Eddie Lacy does. I think the Packers are going to be tough to beat as long as they can sustain this momentum.
So, I mean, just to be a contrarian here, can I just cast my lot with Detroit?
Yeah.
And not that I feel very strongly
Great
about it.
reasons.
I am actually sitting here and looking at those top 4 teams that we're discussing and saying, well, wait a minute. Is this kind of the year that we don't pay much attention to Seattle or San Francisco and they kind of fly under the radar and then, just turn into a wrecking crew come playoff time? Because I think that is entirely possible and maybe even likely. Seattle more than San Francisco, but San Francisco had a big win. They really needed that in New Orleans. None of us gave them a chance. Colin Kaepernick silenced his haters and took it to Instagram. But anyhow, let's talk a little bit more about that after we talk about Detroit. Watching that game against Miami, Miami was not a pushover.
No.
The secondary is great, and Calvin Johnson, of course, was turning them into. They looked completely normal, except for Brent Grimes' amazing, probably interception of the year, the one. But here come the Lions, and they are pulling out those games. And Frank, you penalize them so much for saying, okay, well, they always blow it. They're always end up blowing it. Well, they're not blowing these games here. There's 3 games they could have lost that they turned into victories. Now, does a team need to go out and be winning by 2 or 3 touchdowns in the middle of the year for you to say, yeah, they're a bona fide Super Bowl contender, or can you give credit? Let's say this is just in a vacuum. Let's just say
Sure.
They're not Detroit Lions. They're not tied to 70 years of ineptitude. What credit can you give this team?
I see what you're saying, and there's a point to be made for winning these games. That was a tough game. That was a tough, hard fought. I really enjoyed watching that game.
It was a fun game, yeah.
Really was, and yeah, they get credit for that for sure. But I'm comparing them to somebody like Green Bay who's up 42-0 at the half. It's like, well, yeah, that's just more impressive than pulling out a 3-point win with 29 seconds left, or beating the Falcons with 1 second left.
Let's see what the Lions rush out to on Thanksgiving Day against the Bears.
Oh boy, that's gonna be ugly.
We need to divide up those Thanksgiving games. Who's going to cover those?
Here's a great question. It's a very, very, very hard question to answer. The NFC South gets a team in. I wish they didn't, but they do. They're going to get one. There's 5 spots left, and you have to select 2 of these teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. Philadelphia, Dallas, Detroit, Green Bay, Arizona, Seattle, San Francisco. Pick 2.
Yeah.
Who's it going to be? I picked 2, right? Go ahead, Kevin.
Get in.
Which 2 of those teams are you kicking out of the playoffs? Philly, Dallas, Detroit, Green Bay, Arizona, Seattle, San Francisco. And remember, you got division winners too, so you can't pick like.
I'd say Dallas and San Francisco.
Really?
I'm still not sold on the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm thinking San Francisco and Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit was the team I picked. And they're 7-2. I'll let you pick them, but I don't know. Somebody's got to go. It's going to be an incredible December in the NFC because there's going to be one really, really good team, or maybe 2. If we think San Francisco's a really, really good team, maybe 2 really good teams left out of the playoffs. And the NFC South gets a 6-10 division winner.
The Lions have about the hardest next 2 weeks imaginable. They go to Arizona, then have to go back across the country and play at the Patriots on the 23rd. Then you got the Bears at home against, on Thanksgiving, which is only 4 days after the Patriots. So I actually could see the slide coming. But then after that, you do have 2 games against the Bears. You got a game left against the Vikings, and it's home, and you've got the Buccaneers at home. So that's 4, pretty good games. And then you go at the Packers to close out the season, which is a lot of fun. But
is it possible that the Niners and Seattle missed the playoffs?
It's possible. I'm not saying. I mean, I'm not saying anything's not going to happen this year.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is. Somebody made that question to me on the radio. That's how I really kind of thought about it. And it took me a few seconds to kind of get my thoughts together about, wow, which of these teams am I kicking out of the playoffs? Because how can you say, like, yeah, Dallas Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. Well, they're 7-1 with Tony Romo. They're a good team. Or Green Bay. I mean, somebody's going to get left out. It's going to be really interesting down the stretch.
Well, the flip side of that is, which team are you confident can win the games that it's supposed to win? Which team can you guarantee will take those last of the last 7 games or what have you? Which team are you confident can take at least 5 of those?
I kind of think Seattle, right? I mean, they have the pedigree. They're a team. I think I really like the Eagles. Don't get me wrong, but I could see that. I could see Sanchez imploding, and they lose some games down the stretch. And if I was picking one team that I really, really felt confident in, it's probably Seattle. Yeah. Just as far as making the playoffs.
They are 6-3. We sit here and talk like they're complete. They lost lost at the Chargers. Yeah, they lost to the Cowboys, and the one real black mark is that game against the Rams, which
and the Rams
some
game
bad
was
luck and some trick plays.
Yeah, they ran this crazy punt return. They ran this fake punt at their own 6. If they punt that ball away, which most coaches do, and hey, credit to you, Jeff Fisher, but if they punt that ball away, Seattle's winning a game. I mean, if you were watching that game, as soon as it was 4th down, I said, wow, Seattle's going to pull this out. And then, the Rams ran a fake punt, and that was awesome. It was a call of the year, I think. But I don't think Seattle. There's nothing in Seattle's DNA that leads me to believe they can't get on a run, and I think that they will. I think that they're just that team. They're a championship team. They're a proud champion. I think if I had to put all my money on one of these teams that we just mentioned making the playoffs, it might be Seattle.
All right. So all I'm concerned about is, can my Falcons make it to the NFC South championship? Please stop laughing at me. That hurts. I actually hope they don't. I hope they don't. But
somebody brought up Tampa Bay's only 3 games out.
Right.
Which is nuts. I mean, I'm not saying Tampa Bay's going to rally and make up those 3 games on New Orleans, but goodness, that division. Wow.
It's so bad. It is so bad. And we saw that last night with the Panthers. I mean, I'm not even sure that they had an offensive line for Cam Newton.
No, that was embarrassing. I mean, Cam's not playing well. I've defended Cam a ton, and I still love Cam. I think he's a great player, but he's not playing well. But part of that is just offensive line is embarrassing. Like, how could you how if you have a franchise quarterback, how could you put that line in front of him and then feel good about yourself? Like, it's your job to get that guy some help, and they've gotten him none. Kelvin Benjamin's a really good player. I'll say that.
Back to the Seahawks real quickly. I think some of what we're penalizing them from is, okay, they look disinterested against the Raiders. They look disinterested against the Giants for most of the first half. What do you think is to be said for a championship defender team being bored during the following run? I think we see it. I think we can see it in other sports like the NHL or the NBA. January or February comes along, people just, the athletes aren't as into it. It's hard to get up for a game at Charlotte or wherever. Do you think that translates to the NFL?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Most trends I don't really believe because they're illogical. The Bills are 3-12 on Thursday night games since 1985. Well, that doesn't matter. But this trend, logically, you can make sense for that. And we've talked about a playoff team, a Super Bowl defending Super Bowl champion has not won a playoff game since 2005. And there's a reason for it because, just logically, human instinct. When you work your entire life for something and you get it, it's not that easy to just do it again. And everybody's gunning for you, and guys want more money and more playing time, and you lose free agents because. Yeah. If you're a Seattle Seahawk, people want to sign you. You've been a part of a championship team. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we want to sign you, Golden Tate. Your value is up there. So there's something absolutely to that.
That's part of a big part of the storyline of the 1985 Bears is that everyone had their self-interest after that, and it kind of melted down. Now they actually did have pretty good regular seasons, and they melted down in the playoffs, right, whether against Lawrence Taylor or Joe Gibbs or whatever, But yeah, there's a lot to that.
It's just hard too. It's hard. It's hard in the NFL to do this. It's you talk about like you know, the Seahawks have lost to. All those games are close. They're a step away from being 9-0 probably. Really, when you look at each game, it's just hard. Everybody's gunning for you. Everybody wants a piece of the champ.
But looking forward, I mean, they don't have an easy schedule at all.
No.
I mean, they've got. I'm looking at it. They got 2 against the Cardinals, 2 against the 49ers. They got the Eagles, Chiefs, and the Rams. I mean, that's 7 games, which may be against 6 playoff teams.
Yeah,
that's going to be rugged. So
it's going to be interesting. I'm so into this NFC race. I'm so into the AFC race too because it's more like everybody's in the middle, you know. But in the NFC, we've got basically 8 teams that are fighting for 6 spots, or you know, basically 7 teams fighting for 5 spots because the South is what it is. But yeah, it's just so much fun this year. I mean, we've had so many blowout games; they've been awful, but I think we're really in for a good stretch run.
Yeah, I agree. It's we've got a great Sunday coming up with Seahawks going to the Chiefs, Lions, Cardinals,
Packers,
Eagles, Colts, Patriots, and then
is that by the way, Kevin? Is that Packers Eagles game the afternoon or is that the morning?
It's afternoon. It's a 3 o'clock.
It's a late game. That's a perfect late game. You know, those two that could be a 31-30 shootout. You could see it coming. I mean, that's a fun game. And then the go on. The Sunday night game's awesome.
Yeah,
and then hopefully
the NASCAR finale, and I might have a little window open on my computer.
Yes.
Maybe. And then the good appetizer is Buffalo at Miami, or is it the other way around? I think it's at Miami.
Is it at Miami? Yeah, that's a good game. I mean, we're getting at a point where you can cross a couple games off the list because they're just bad, you know. And Jacksonville plays Tennessee. Okay, I'm not worrying about that one necessarily. And the NFC South game now, I'm not gonna worry about that one. But there's some good games coming up. It's fun. I know that Friday we're gonna talk a lot about New England Indy, but God, what a great game that is.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the lightning round. 3 minutes. We're gonna hit Frank with every question imaginable. We're starting now. Jay, you're on the clock.
Colin Kaepernick, do you think that he will be able to hold it together for the rest of the season?
He's just he's trick or treat. You don't know what you're getting each snap of the ball. That's kind of what makes him interesting. There's times when he just locks in on a guy and throws it to him even though he's double covered. There's times he makes throws like he did to Michael Crabtree to win the game. He's I don't know. I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you play to play what he's going to do, much less the rest of the season.
How mad are you at me for suggesting that you address the Ben Roethlisberger for MVP chance that were coming out of Pittsburgh last Monday?
But everybody was. I mean, it's just everybody was like, "Hey, Ben is the MVP." Now, if you read the comments on last week's any of our posts last week, it was Ben is the MVP. It's 2 games. We got to stop this whole attitude that the NFL, like everything, is so intensely changing. You know, I mean, sometimes let's not overreact to 1 or 2 games.
What team, given that you are paid to watch football, what team do you least like to see coming up on the national games?
Oh boy, it's usually one of those Tennessee. It's probably Tennessee. It's like, I guess they don't get many national games. It's any of the NFC East. Then it's the Giants. It's the Redskins. It's that's bad football. Whenever the Giants and Redskins are involved, on those Monday night, Sunday night games, and they get too many primetime games, it's just bad football.
Have you ever seen a city react like Chicago was on Sunday night to just one game? I mean, the hysteria. Has any hysteria ever matched that?
I'm sure it has, but boy, yeah, they were. I'm surprised Mark Trestman and Mel Tucker made it into town. I thought they were just going to put up a barricade outside of like Evanston or something, not let them in. That was, whew. Fans should be mad too. It's been embarrassing.
Will Oakland get to 2 wins this year?
No. They'd be happy to get the 1. I think. Who do they beat? Again, who do they beat? They played a decent half of football, first half against the Broncos, and they were down 10 at home. It's like, well, okay, you're not winning this one. Which one are you going to win?
Jacksonville's future or Tampa Bay's future?
Oh, probably Jacksonville because of the quarterback. Because it's all about the quarterback. You can build around that. And I still believe in Blake Bortles. I really do.
Gus Bradley?
Yeah. I think he just doesn't have much to work with. If they do something stupid and fire him, they deserve what they get because they haven't given him much to work with.
There was a dead rat found in the press box. What, not including reporters, is the worst thing that you've seen in the press box?
You know what? I didn't see this, but it happened. There was like right before the a Chargers-Broncos game I was at, somebody was cleaning the stage. Something happened, and he like fell down in the concourse. And they had to like basically get his body. This is the absolute truth. They had to like get his body out of there before like the fans started coming in. Like it was,
Yeah.
oh boy, we were. Kevin and I.
Wait a minute, this is the guy was dead.
Yeah, oh yeah, he died right outside. It was like on the concourse, right in front of the press box. Yeah, it was sad. It was awful. I didn't see it. I did not see it. But Kevin will remember this. And in '99, we went to Purdue to cover a Wisconsin-Purdue game, and they wouldn't let us in the stadium, which was really weird. It was about the right time to let us in. They wouldn't let us in. Finally, they let us in, and we find out that there was an ABC cameraman there, and his like estranged girlfriend got into the stadium somehow and started shooting at him.
Good Lord.
Yes, like what would have happened? I guess they just do the same as they did in Qualcomm there, and they just kind of drag the guy's body out before the fans come in. But that was you remember this, don't you, Kevin?
That was a very famous road trip. Yes, I do. We had got up at like 5 a.m. and drive from Madison to West Lafayette, and like finally got there after a series of follies, which included driving with 2 of our still inebriated coworkers from the night before.
Yes,
and so we finally get there. I mean, not to go too much into the story, but it ended up with like our 2 coworkers didn't have shirts on in the back of our car because they had thrown up on themselves.
Oh boy.
It's like honestly the number one story of why it's awesome to work for a college newspaper and why you will never have a better job than that, because Frank and I were responsible. We're looking to have jobs in sports media and blah blah blah, and we gotten up and limited our drinks the night before, and then we were with these 2 mopes, and
we're still our best buddies. They're awesome dudes. But that was such a it was fun. That was a great game, by the way. It was a really great game. Drew Brees, Ron Dane. It was really fun.
Nick Davis with the punt return.
Yeah, Vinny Sutherland. The Purdue Boilermakers. Not to make this about the Purdue Boilermakers, but they're at the 5-yard line, and they have Drew Brees, one of the top 5 quarterbacks has ever walked the earth, probably. And they decide to run a reverse pass to Vinny Sutherland, and Vinny Sutherland throws the ball in the end zone and gets it picked off. Like, what are you doing, Joe Tiller? You got Drew Brees. You might want to have that guy throw the ball.
Purdue is so crazy. I mean, Wisconsin just ran over them last Saturday. It's hard to find a school that really can match in the last 15 years 2 quarterbacks, the pedigree of Drew Brees, and all jokes aside, Kyle Orton.
Michigan. Look at Michigan State, though. Michigan State has this run of weird, Drew Stanford,
they've been good.
Cousins.
But they've sustained the success. Purdue has not built anything off that. They haven't really done anything to the program. And obviously Joe Tiller was a great and pretty, I don't want to say revolutionary coach, but a pretty good coach for that spot to try and win in a place like West Lafayette. But they just didn't turn that momentum into anything.
Nothing. They're bad. They're a bad football team right now. Bad football program.
So I was also saying too. I sent a text to our buddy. I said, "Have you actually ever met a Purdue grad out in the wild, like in Chicago?"
I did last year. Last year I was in Vegas at a craps table, and a woman next to me was wearing a Purdue shirt, and I was like, "Hey, did you go to Purdue?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm sorry, you had to spend your college life in West Lafayette. I'm sorry. I apologize." And I don't think she was too thrilled with me at that point, but I'd had a few, so it's okay. And I was telling the truth.
Were you taking money from her at the table, or what?
Nah. Oh, she was a craps table, so okay. I couldn't. She actually rolled really well. I remember that. I was high-fiving her later. But yes, I mean, West Lafayette. Nobody's ever been to West Lafayette, and there's a reason. West Lafayette is a strange place. It is like, there's anything here? Really? There's something? People live here? Wow, cool. I guess it's not exactly Madison or Austin. Let's put it that way.
I would actually go there a lot younger and see them play Notre Dame, because my dad's boss was a Notre Dame alum, and he'd always get these tickets. And of course, he wasn't going to West Lafayette, so I was like, "Here you go," and we'd go down there, and it was a fun atmosphere. They've got this gigantic drum, and they had.
That's fine. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, they've got good alums. They've got a good history, but
and now you're sucking up so we don't get the hate mail. I see it.
I just told you Purdue alums don't exist. Seriously, in Chicago, there's like a bar for like every Big Ten team. Like you can say, okay, where do Penn State fans congregate? You say, go here. Where do Iowa fans? There's 5 choices or whatever. I've never heard of a Purdue bar. I've never walked into a bar and it's like, this is the place for Boilermaker Saturdays. Like,
that's actually a really good point. There's Wisconsin bars out here in Denver. Because they know that Wisconsin fans just drink all day and they're going to make a lot of money.
William and Mary bars, do those exist?
There are a few William and Mary bars. We have gatherings for homecoming, but it's always kind of sad because we've got to crowd around somebody's laptop to watch it on ESPN3. it's never quite.
Is it Darren Sharper's laptop? That you fill up?
No, that was confiscated. So Vegas, how can we get Yahoo to send us out there for the start of March Madness to write an article on it? Kevin, what can you do?
Kevin, yeah.
I just greenlight it.
Okay,
Give me,
we're
give
good.
me
We're
the
there.
form, I'll rubber stamp it.
Perfect.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that doesn't need to be a debate.
Bucket list, man. It's a bucket list thing.
There probably does need to be a debate.
Damn it.
You know what, Frank is. I don't know if you should go out there this March, because if the Badgers get upset that first weekend, you're just going to be
it's brutal.
jumping off the top of the stratosphere.
When they were a 2 seed and lost to UNLV the year that we went to number 1 for a week in 2007, it was I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to leave, like the greatest place on earth. It was it's always depressing, and this year it's going to be even worse if they lose.
It's awesome though, seeing him on the cover of ESPN the magazine and Sports Illustrated and all this other stuff. I like it. I was reading the Sports Illustrated preview of the Badger basketball, and you open it up, and they've got almost like a lineup of each like key contributor, and it's like, is this real life? Like the Wisconsin Badgers are featured this much in Sports Illustrated?
It's a little strange.
Yeah, I like it. So I don't know how this turned into the college basketball and football podcast, but it was an enjoyable few minutes. So anyhow, this has been the Shutdown Corner podcast. We are now on YouTube, so if you'd like to consume the podcast that way, we've made it a little interactive where you can kind of go to key spots if you don't want to hear all of our droning, but just our opinions on selected subjects. So that's kind of neat, and you can subscribe to the page through that. And then, of course, we're on Podbean.
Podbean, yeah, and it's there are links through all the. There should be links within the show notes to this to forward to your friends, to give us good reviews on iTunes. All of that's wonderful.
Yeah, word of mouth is great. We're doing a big push to the end of the season. So any recommendation, or hey, listen to these guys, you'll hate them and you'll hate listen to them, we'll even take that. So we love it. So anyhow, this has been the Shutdown Corner podcast. I'm Kevin Kaduk here with Frank Schwab and Jay Busbee. We thank you, and we will see you on Friday.